Hello, my beautiful flowers. Welcome back to my channel. Dr. April here with another video in our racial trauma series. By the way, this is the last video of our racial trauma series. I am so excited to be completing this series. I hope that you got some value and some helpful information from watching the series. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new here, welcome. Hey, I am Dr. April, and basically I'm committed to helping you prioritize your mental health, elevate your wellness, and embrace self-care. So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out when I post a new video here every week. All right, so let's get into the topic of today's video. Today, I am going to talk about how to report racism and discrimination at work, step by step. Let's get into the topic of today's video. In a recent tech study mentioned in the Harvard Business Review, reported that 81% of women of color reported racism in the workplace, and 90% of those women experienced sexism in the workplace. Okay? So this is something that is ongoing, and it is a big problem in the workplace, okay? And so in this video, I want to make sure that I give you the information you need so that you feel comfortable and confident reporting experiences of racism and discrimination in the workplace, okay? So just for starters, it's essential that Black women and other women of color report and address racism and discrimination in the workplace. For starters, it is critical to your mental and emotional well-being. That's why you cannot just sit by while this goes on. Whether it's happening to you or another sister in the workplace, you have to address it. Okay, it is so critical that you address it. All right, so do not let this be something that goes unaddressed at work. Black women actually experience racism more than any other racial group. And so typically, what makes Black women more vulnerable to experiences of racism and discrimination are their intersections of race and gender. So race, one, you're Black, two, gender, being a woman, they are more likely or highly susceptible to multiple forms of oppression, especially the racism and the sexism that we see in the workplace, quite often associated with Black women and women of color. And so another thing that Black women typically experience in the workplace is microaggressions, right? And sometimes those microaggressions are intentional, and sometimes they may be unintentional or subtle, right? But I gave you a couple videos ago, there is a video about confronting microaggressions in the workplace. If you have not watched that video in this series, go back and watch it, because in that video, I give you practical ways and tips on how to respond to those microaggressions. So that's something else that we cannot allow to go unaddressed in the workplace, all right? And so oftentimes Black women feel uncomfortable reporting or addressing racism and discrimination in the workplace. One is fear of retaliation, right? Oftentimes Black women think that if they speak up or if they say something, they're going to be fired or they're going to lose their job. So job loss is a big concern for Black women, and why oftentimes they don't say anything. And then another issue is just the lack of information, right? The lack of knowledge, not knowing how to, one, respond to microaggressions, not knowing how to address the racism and how to navigate it in the workplace without exposing themselves or feeling like you don't want to be associated with causing the problem, when really you're not the problem. But sometimes we internalize the racism and discrimination to make us think that we've done something wrong, we're the problem. And I'm here to tell you right now that that is not true, okay? So these are some of the reasons typically that Black women do not respond or confront or address or even report racism and discrimination in the workplace, all right? But no worries. Next, I want to go ahead and talk to you about how to report racism and discrimination in the workplace step by step, okay? The first thing that you are going to do is document the incident, okay? So this can look like a couple of things. One, it can look like you going to journal or reflect on what happened so that you have a clear head and you are able to really process the details effectively. Also documenting the incident could essentially look like you writing down what happened, right? What occurred, what was said, who was the perpetrator, right? And also, were there any witnesses, okay? So you want to document the incident. That's the first step. The second thing that I want you to do, or the second step, is to check in with yourself. You were just a victim of either racism or some other form of discrimination in the workplace. You need to take a moment to breathe, to process, to check in with yourself. Maybe that looks like you booking an appointment with your therapist, or perhaps that looks like you going to get a massage after work. I don't care what you do, but just some sort of self-care is essential, okay? Because after dealing with something like that, you're gonna be under a lot of stress. You may feel frantic, you may feel afraid, a lot of different emotions and feelings could be coming up for you. So you wanna make sure that you're checking in with yourself and that you're putting your mental health and your emotional well-being front and center, okay? All right, the third thing that you're going to do, you want to file a formal complaint with Human Resources or your supervisor, okay? It just depends on the dynamics of the situation. If your supervisor is the perpetrator, then you can't report it to your supervisor, right? So perhaps that looks like HR. And what makes it formal is that you want to put something in writing. Documentation is key. Racism is so hard, and discrimination a lot of times is so hard to prove, that you want to make sure that this incident is on file, it's been reported. So in the event that something else comes up, they can't say that they didn't know. It can't go unaddressed. At the end of the day, you must put something in writing, okay? Whether that's sent to via email, whether HR asks you to come in and write a statement. If that's the case, you need to make sure that you get a copy of it before you leave, or take a picture of it on your phone, okay? That's the third step. The fourth step is follow through. So remember, previously I said that you were gonna write a formal complaint or file a formal complaint, right? So the next step, number 4, is follow through. What that means is you're not going to file a report and then just hope something happens, or hope that it gets addressed or just think it's there just to be there. No. We need follow through. So that looks like after you filing the complaint, follow through would look like you following up with HR for next steps, following up with your supervisor for next steps. What are we going to do in the workplace to take action? I don't care if maybe, and this is a great idea, perhaps your supervisor may ask you to provide some insight on how you can help support the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the workplace, right? Perhaps they may consider doing some type of anti-racism and discrimination workshop for all employees, or have an expert such as myself come in and talk about being mindful of microaggressions and how to address them. And at the end of the day, there should be a zero tolerance for racism and discrimination in the workplace. It is against the law. Okay, it's against the law. So it is unlawful for them to know that this is happening in the workplace and to do nothing about it. Okay, but they don't have to act if they don't know. So it's your job to report it, expect some follow through, and make sure that they are taking action. Okay? All right. So the fifth thing that you're going to do, I need to say this before I get to number 5. If you have tried all of the internal avenues, right? All of the internal ways within the workplace to address racism and discrimination, and you feel like nothing is being done or nothing is happening, the next thing for you to do, which is number 5, you are going to file a charge of discrimination with the EEOC. And the EEOC is the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Yes, ma'am. So what that looks like is that you are going to go to their website. That link is going to be in the description box. And when you click on, I think it says employees, at the top tab, click on file a charge of discrimination. You can report your job to the EEOC. And basically with the EEOC, a few things can occur. One, they can work with you to help you address the issue with your employer. In some cases, people even go farther enough to actually proceed with a racism or discrimination claim against their workplace. And what ends up happening in some cases, in the event that the racism and the discrimination can be proved, a lot of times people end up obtaining some sort of compensation. Also, oftentimes, the work environment can be penalized, right? So sometimes they have to pay a fine because of the racism and discrimination. They have to implement trainings, and it can get really expensive for workplaces, okay? So the last thing they want you to do is go to the EEOC. So they should be very adamant and staying on top of addressing the issue in the workplace, okay? Because they don't want you to have to go out here and do extra things like get an attorney or report them to the EEOC, okay? As I mentioned before, racism and discrimination is against the law. They must act. It is unlawful for them to know about racism and discrimination and not to do anything, okay? So the EEOC is there to help you in the event that you need them. And last but not least, the sixth thing that you are going to do is that you want to consult with an attorney. Yes, oftentimes the EEOC has attorneys that work hand in hand with them that can help you with your case, right? But it doesn't hurt for you also to seek some outside support. A lot of times, consulting with an attorney may be a lot faster than you hearing back from the EEOC in some cases. So you want to consult with an attorney, look for an employment or discrimination attorney in your area, and set up a consultation with them to see if you have a case, okay? As I mentioned before, it's hard to prove racism and discrimination. So that's why I'm telling you that documentation is key, okay? And so you want to make sure that, you are keeping up. If you have emails, if you have voicemails, if you have text messages, anything that can help you prove the racism and discrimination that you have experienced in the workplace, you want to make sure that you have that information ready to show to the attorney, ready to discuss with the attorney so they can determine if you have a claim. Now, let me also say this. In the event that you make a report to the EEOC, in the event that you do consult with an attorney, your job cannot fire you, okay? If they fire you, that's also against the law. Like I said, retaliation is against the law. They cannot retaliate because you reported racism or discrimination in the workplace, all right? So don't worry about that. Your job, for the most part, is safe. They don't want to compound the problems that they already have, all right? So those are the 6 things that you are going to do. All right, and in this next part of the video, I just want to talk about why it's important that you take action. You have to take action. You have to advocate, and you have to stand up against the racism and the discrimination. One, you want to because it is the right thing to do. It is your right. You have to know your rights in the workplace, okay? And at the end of the day, by doing so, you're promoting a more inclusive and safe work environment. Not just that, but you're paving the way for another sister coming behind you, and for them to start taking Black people more seriously in the workplace, right? For them to know that this is something that not only you are not going to tolerate, but the people coming behind you are also not going to tolerate, okay? And then on top of that, you open the door for opportunities for you to get involved with any diversity, equity, or inclusion initiatives, any workplace wellness initiatives, right? And first and foremost, taking action allows you to prioritize your mental and emotional well-being, okay? It helps you increase and enhance your workplace wellness. You deserve to go to work every day and feel appreciated, to feel valued, and especially to feel safe, okay? And so this is why it's important that you take action. So let's recap. So in the beginning, I told you why it's critical or essential for you to address racism and discrimination in the workplace. And then I also talked to you about some of the reasons why Black women do not report racism and discrimination in the workplace, and how Black women in particular are highly susceptible to multiple forms of discrimination, especially in the workplace, right? And then I also talked to you about step by step, right? Step by step on how you can report racism and discrimination at work. And then lastly, I talked to you about the importance of you taking action. You have to take action, okay? Don't be afraid to take action. And it's so important. Also, so far, if you are getting value from this content, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when I post more videos here about workplace issues, helping you to improve your mental health, your wellness, and your self-care, okay? And then also, before I close out the video, I wanna give you the opportunity to follow me on Instagram and all of my socials. I am at The Wellness Room ATL. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And Lastly, if you are also getting value from this content, I invite you to support my channel, okay? You can easily use the Ko-fi link in the description box to buy me a coffee, sis. I love coffee, and I would really appreciate your continued support. And just thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. It means so much to me. If you know someone who is experiencing racism and discrimination in the workplace, please share this video with them so that they can have some practical ways that they can address this issue, so they can feel confident on responding to it as well. And also, if you have any thoughts or experiences that you would like to share, I invite you to share them in the comments as well. And if you are navigating a very difficult situation in the workplace and you want some expert advice or some support, I can definitely help you. I do offer workplace consultations. That link will be in the description box below as well. I am so happy to help you navigate whatever it is that you're experiencing at work. And I'm sure that together we can come up with some really good solutions for you, okay? And that concludes this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for watching this series. If you watched all 8 videos, I just want to sincerely thank you. I appreciate you. And another thing, I know I have told you to hit the like button like 2 or 3 times already, but if you have not, sis, please hit that like button. Just in case you did not do it, hit that like button, because shout out to the only Black therapist on YouTube with the racial trauma series. Like, yes, we need to celebrate that, okay? So thank you so much. And before you go, let me leave you with this. You are a beautiful flower that blooms and flourishes. And may your radiant light continue to nurture those around you. And thank you so much for bringing beauty to our community, one petal at a time. Bye. Take care of yourself.